Okay, good morning everyone and welcome back. It's been about a, 4 or 5 month hiatus, but we're finally making the return. No, it's not a coincidence that I am dieting, that the vlogs come back. That can't be a coincidence. But, you know, it's just a little bit more interesting. People seem to find that side of things cooler, I guess, and they get to see a little bit of progression and all that kind of thing. There's nothing to say that the off season isn't great, but you know, it's a little bit more interesting for the wider audience to see a dieting phase or like a cut or something like that. So today we're going to be running through a full day of eating. You might see some clips from my pool session as well, and then we're just going to get after it. So I guess I'll catch you at meal one. All right, so update. I am out of my sprouted loaf, so I'm going to go down to the shops, down to the market, go to the health food shop and go buy some of that, and then we'll come back and eat that meal one. So I managed to get the sprouted loaf. They had 2 loaves there, so I grabbed both. The reasoning behind the sprouted loaf is it's a great source of magnesium. Magnesium is a nutrient or an electrolyte that is commonly missed in most people's diets. I don't just do this, I also supplement in magnesium glycinate as well. But I find with a lot of people in general and a lot of clientele that magnesium does get missed. And there's so many important factors on why you should be getting that magnesium in. Anyway, nonetheless, we're going to jump into that meal one now. So my meal one will consist of 100 grams of that sprouted loaf there. I also do 2 whole eggs, and then I do 50 grams of smoked salmon. And then I also do a smoothie. So inside the smoothie, I do 150 grams of cold pressed raw milk. I do 75 grams of blueberries, 80 grams of banana, and 15 grams of whey in there as well. Obviously, once I make it all, I'll chuck the nutrients up on the screen like I do normally through MyFitnessPal. But then we'll get into that meal. We've got a block of work to do. Once we finish off that block of work, we'll have meal 2, and then we will go to the gym. Meal 1, this morning I did 3,000 steps, so obviously you saw getting ready for the walk. I do that under the sun, make sure it's just like one of the first things I do in the morning. I also got a coffee while I was on that walk as well. Then, as you would have seen in that first clip, I took supplements, so I took EPA, DHA, so just to get some omegas in. Do that first thing in the morning, and I also did a vitamin D supplement as well. So the reason I did a vitamin D supplement is purely because now, as you can tell, I don't know if you can tell, but the weather's quite shitty. There's not as much sunlight exposure anymore. Daylight savings are over, so I'm just making sure I'm getting a significant amount of vitamin D in. I don't do it every day, I do it every second day, because usually when I do get my bloods done, my vitamin D is quite good. Obviously, I also did 500 mils of water upon wake on an empty stomach. I do filtered water. I actually posted this on my story yesterday, and a lot of people asked me why I was doing filtered water in the morning. If it was like, it has to be filtered water in the morning. I normally do filtered water all the time. Our fridge is got a little tank in it, so what we do is we fill up that in there as well so we can get cold filtered water, but we also have just the outside of the fridge one. I do the one outside the fridge just because in the morning cold water sort of, I can't get it down as well, so I just do the straight from the actual water filter itself. But the reason behind that is obviously there's fluoride in tap water, which is not good for thyroid health. So at the moment we are smashing the filtered water opposed to normal. This actually wasn't my idea. This was Alana's idea to get filtered water. And now I can't go back to tap water. You can tell there's definitely a taste difference. Anyway, meal 1, we got 120 grams of magnesium loaf today. I slipped when I was cutting it. Then we got 2 whole eggs, 50 grams of smoked salmon. We've got 80 grams of banana, 75 grams of blueberries, 150 mils of cold pressed raw milk. Then we've got 15 grams of whey protein in there just for the taste and to top up the protein intake. I like to try to get anywhere between 45 to 50 grams of protein in each meal, as research does show that anything higher than 50 grams of protein generally doesn't get absorbed as well. And then obviously I have a glass of water with my meals as well. But what we've got on the agenda today, after this, I'm going to go smash out the rest of my updates for the day, and then go from there. Okay, so, I don't have to yell. I always forget that I have the microphone on and I don't have to yell. So meal 2 is about to go down. With this meal, I just try to keep it easy digesting, as this is the pre-workout meal. So what I'm doing is I'm doing 166 grams of chicken breast mince, which is quite yuck to touch because it is mushy as anything, which you're about to see. But the beauty of chicken breast mince is how easy it is on digestion. So obviously it's ground down quite a lot, which will aid in that. I don't know how much more I can talk about that. Anyway, so we're going to cook this, bit of seasonings, and then I guess we'll sit down and have the next meal. The rice cooker here that you can't see, my rice is cooked on that. I'll do a little bit of rocket just to get some greens in, 20 grams of dark chocolate, but we'll sit down and we'll have the meal in a second. So this is, I'm going to start that again, because I say so at the start of everything. This is meal 2. This is my pre-workout meal. I generally train best after 2 meals. This is after a lot of market research. I know this. When I'm peak off season, it does get a little bit hard when more food's going in, just because I struggle a little bit more to get it all in. But we've got, I don't even know how much rocket, a handful of rocket in there. There's a bit of sriracha underneath there. There's 100 grams of uncooked rice, so it's about 280 cooked. Then there is, like I said, 160 grams of the chicken breast mince. I've got to grab the dark chocolate after I finish this. I use it as like a dessert sort of thing. Water intake is at 2 liters prior to training. Sometimes it pushes further than that anyway, just because it depends how long it takes for me to get to that second meal and get into the gym. I usually eat this, then I'll wait a little bit, have another glass of water, probably about half an hour after the meal, start getting ready to go, and then hit the gym. I'll run over my intra-workout in the next clip so that I can get in before I forget, because I probably will forget if I don't do that. But otherwise, the next clip will, other than that, the clip after that will be in the gym. So my intra-workout at the moment is I do 25 grams of Future Whey by Bulk Nutrients, which is like one of those like clear sort of cordial-like proteins. I use this in replacement as like an EAA. And then I'm also doing 2 scoops of Powerade powder. And then I also do a little bit of electrolytes, and I also crack some salt and some low salt in there as well. This is purely just to make sure my electrolyte balance while I'm training is going well. I'm staying hydrated, make sure we keep the pump, and maintain all of that good stuff. Pre-workout has gone in. I went with a little bit left actually. RTD Total War Great Flavor. So we'll get that down. I had 2/3 of it yesterday, so I'm only doing a third today on back day just to sort of get it through, because it's 300 milligrams caffeine, and fuck the crash after that. But what we are doing is I'll just film a bunch of like sets and stuff like that. Just chop it up with some nice music in the background. And then, yeah, it won't be a lot of talking in this one. I feel like sometimes the ones with talking and going over everything, people don't actually enjoy that much. They just want to see what I do. So get in there and we'll get it done. gym. I didn't end up filming my bicep movements at the end. My phone was going to die, and I didn't want to film them, and then halfway through, and then the phone dies, and whatever. But there were 2 bicep exercises at the end that weren't filmed. Did a little bit of posing, which I've thrown in as well. But now we are back. So this is my 3rd meal, or post-workout meal. Chicken mince, same amount of rice. Get that down. And then tonight we have a podcast with Dean St. Mart, Dr. Dean St. Mart. So that'll be really good. But I've still got 2 meals to go, and then that'll be pretty much it for the vlog. Meal going in, 80 grams of jasmine rice and 83 grams of extra lean pork mince and 83 grams of extra lean beef mince. So this is my 1 red meat meal of the day. As you can tell, I get a pretty broad range of proteins in. So I do 2 chicken meals, I do 1 red meat meal, I do the salmon and the egg meal, and then my last meal of the day is just a yogurt, just to sort of top off the protein. So we will eat this meal. I'm going to go do a little bit more work. Then we'll have, just before the podcast with Dean, I'll eat that final meal. And then I'll probably wrap it up with that final meal. I was quite time poor. I didn't film my final meal. It was a high protein YoPro yogurt and 40 grams of granola. Macros are up on the screen. Pretty much I was just bashing on with work, and then it got to the time for the podcast, and it's now 11:20. So we're on the podcast with Dean St. Mart for 3 hours. It was a fucking great podcast. Very, very in depth, and there were some topics that haven't really been spoken about in relation to PEDs and long-term health and all of that kind of stuff. And then obviously after it, we got off and we chatted for a little bit of time, and just picking his brain and just getting some things off him. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. It's awesome to be back, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.